Hey YouTube family friends, this is Rev It Up Mustang Fanatic Productions, Mechanic Edition. Today's video short is we're going to show you how to properly change the oil on your vehicle. Doesn't matter what vehicle, it's going to apply to every single vehicle. So let me show you what I'm working with. We'll be right back. So this is my neighbor's 2016 Nissan Versa Note, little 1.4 liter engine, and make sure that you have your vehicle chalked properly, front and back. You want to have it jacked up, and also have a jack stand under there. What you see, you're gonna need some place to put oil in. You're gonna need a oil filter remover and installer tool, the proper size wrench or socket to take the oil pan loose, and you're going to need some shop towels to clean up the mess. Now, one thing you want to know is what the proper oil that the vehicle uses. Sometimes the manufacturer has deals with different corporations or what type of oil they use, but this vehicle, I don't see where Nissan has any regulations of who they prefer. Like Hyundai, you use Quaker State oil. On Mercedes, you use Mobil 1 oil. Now, Mobil 1 is recommended on this, but you don't need to use Mobil 1 oil. You can use any oil that has the SAE rating as that. So what you want is to find out what type of oil your vehicle takes. This vehicle takes 5W30 full synthetic Mobil oil, or full synthetic oil. So that's what you want to get. Then next you want to find out how many quarts the vehicle holds. In this particular case, this holds 3.7 quarts of oil. It's a little small engine, and you want to make sure you put the exact oil in, and you want to get the proper oil filter. So I have the oil for it. My neighbor likes Pennzoil, so you see here I have Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic Oil 5W30, and make sure it says Dexos on the major brands of oil that you want to use. And since we're using synthetic oil, we go with Fram, the ultra synthetic filter, and the filter on this, the number is XG6607. That means extra guard 6607. Now, any other type of filter is still going to have that 6607 number, but the XG might be TG, Tough Guard, or Mobil 1 6607, but that will be the number to go with this type of filter. So I find oil is so expensive. To get 4 quarts of oil would have ran my neighbor $22. So just the 5 quarts here ran actually 4 quarts ran $26. To get the 5 quart, it only ran $24. So it made sense just to get this and save the leftover oil. So do your math and see which is best for your application. So now what we do, we go underneath, put our pan under so it can catch the oil, and I broke loose the oil filter, the oil pan bolt earlier, so it's loose. So all you want to do is locate that, loosen it, and you want to keep tension on it until you feel it get loose, so you don't drop it inside the oil pan, because I take this for a ride to get the oil up to temperature. So now we just wait for the oil to drain, and so we'll be right back. Now, another important note, while the oil is draining, we can take time to inspect the oil pan bolt to make sure there's no metal shavings on the bolt that the copper ring around here looks pretty good, and that there's no unfamiliar material that's not supposed to be in here. And then you can check out how dirty the oil was. And this oil, in this case, it's not that dirty. So we can go ahead and clean this off while the oil is draining. So our oil has completely finished draining. So now we want to take our plug and we want to put our plug back in there. And once it's plugged, then we want to get our 14mm wrench and we want to tighten our bolt back. And this bolt doesn't have to be very tight. It's aluminum, and you don't want to mess with the O-ring. So just a good tight grip will be fine. Next is the oil filter, which is right there. And I'll explain this type of filter that mounts sideways like this. Usually you can just take your hands and spin it loose. Let's see if we can do that. Let's get this here because it's gonna make a mess. I can't do it with two hands, so I'll be right back. So I managed to crack it loose. So now I'm gonna loosen it until I see the oil start to drip a little bit, and let it drain. So I'm twisting, and there's the part where the oil begins to drain. And so we'll just let that drain for a minute before we actually pull that down. Okay, so we're going to drop the filter. Most of the oil has drained from it. Now we're going to put it over here, and we're going to let that drain right there. And we'll show you what we do with the new filter in just a moment. So what I had to use was this type of, this is a bad shot, this type of oil filter wrench. And it connects to your ratchet. You can use an extension if you have to, but there was no room for an extension. So what happens is these open up. They open up like that, and when you turn it, it twists, and then you can twist the filter until it gets to the point where you can take this off and use it by hand. So that's one type of oil filter wrench that I use to take off oil filters with. Now, this particular filter, again, like I said, is a Fram filter, and it's synthetic. And what we do is, you can't take and put oil in here because this filter goes in like this, horizontally. If it went in vertically, you can fill it up, but horizontally you can't. But at any rate, what you want to do is a must. Always take some fresh oil and lube around the gasket, the rubber piece. This prevents the O-ring and this here from sticking, because some people over tighten these things and it's very hard to get them off. And so you want to make sure you put a good bit of fresh oil on that right there. And again, if this was a vertical type oil filter, you want to fill this thing up, and this will be primed, and all the oil that you need to go in the vehicle will be in there, including what goes inside the filter. So I'll show you what we do afterwards. So now I'm going to install the filter back on. It finished draining up here, and make sure you take the old gasket out. Sometimes they don't come out with the filter. So you want to make sure that, because you will have a leak. And that shows that that filter was on pretty tight. So now, if I can get my hands under here. It's hard doing this. I can't do it with one hand. So we'll get back to you. So with a clean oil filter, I get a good glove and I take and I twist this filter on. And I tighten it with my hand as tight as I can. With a good glove. Nice and tight. With your hand. And that's all you need on this right here. Now, what we do, we want to take and put 3.7 liters, 3.7 quarts of oil on here. This is a 5 quart. So here's 3 quarts, here's 3.5. So I want to go in here between 3.5 and 4.0. So it almost takes 4 quarts of oil, and that's where I want to make sure I get to. So I'm going to pour that in there and we'll go from there. One thing I forgot to mention, it's easy if you take your oil cap off, the oil flows out freely. So now I'm going to go over and get my oil fill cup or tube, whatever you want to call it, so I don't make a mess. And it fits right inside there. It's got the little splash shield, so the oil will go in there. So I'm going to pour 3.7 gallons in there. So out of 5 quarts, and we need 3.7 quarts, what you want to do, 3.7 quarts, what you want to do, this side is quarts, this side is liters. So you want to make sure you see 1.5 right there. We want to get this down slightly under here to about 1.3. And that's how many quarts we want to leave left. 1.3 quarts we want to leave left inside here. Okay, so we've hit our mark of 3.7 quarts. And I know this because it's a subtraction that I did from the 5 quarts. So you do 5 quarts minus 3.7 leaves you 1.3 quarts. So I have 1.3 quarts left. So we know this is full. So now I'm going to jack the vehicle up, remove the jack, take the jack stands down, and I'm going to back it out in the street, get it on level ground, and then we'll let it sit for a while and check the oil, run it, check it again. But there's one specific thing I want to show you that you have to do with these side type of oil filters. So we'll be right back. Okay, so what you want to do with filters that are horizontal and not vertical, because you can't put oil in them and fill them up. So in order to prime the filter, you don't want to start the car with no oil in the filter, because that's your first line of defense. So what you do is you turn the car to the on position, not start. And this primes the oil filter. It allows oil to get into the filter before you start it. And I shut it off, and I do it a couple of times. And I just let it sit for a second or two. And then once the oil gets in, you can go ahead, crank the vehicle up. And that is how you do a oil change on your vehicle. Remember, you just got to remember what type of oil your vehicle takes, and always go by your manufacturers. You can find it in your owner's manual, or sometimes it's listed on the cap of the oil. It will tell you what grade oil. Or if you can't find that, again, Google your year, make, and model and ask what type of oil and how many gallons or how many quarts that it takes, and you'll get that information, and you're able to get the right amount of oil and the right oil, and correctly get the oil filter and how to take the oil bolt loose, tighten it, oil filter, tighten it, and put the new oil filter in. Now, like I said, this was a vertical filter. I would have filled it up with oil and put oil around the O-ring, and then put it straight up in there and tighten it, and then you can start the car long because oil is in the filter. So we thank you for watching this video short. This is Rev It Up Mustang Fanatic Productions Mechanic Edition. God bless. Give us a thumbs up and hit the like button to subscribe. Thank you for watching.